Our team at Atlantic Construction Podcast is excited to announce our newest partner, Luminous Labs. Luminous Labs is the leading provider of architectural visualizations for developers, homeowners, architects, and more. Luminous Labs has a team of experienced designers and visualizers using cutting-edge technology to bring your 3D renderings to life. Using these architectural visualizations will give you a sense of scale, space, and design, allowing you to make informed decisions about your projects before construction even begins. These high-end architectural visualizations are a perfect tool for presentations, marketing materials, and design reviews, allowing you to communicate your vision to stakeholders, clients, and more. This episode is brought to you by our presenting sponsor, Pizant Building Products. Pizant Building Products has been providing contractors and builders with the supplies necessary to complete their jobs since 1964. They have built a reputation of honest, helpful, and quality service, serving the HRM for the last 58 years, now with 7 locations in Nova Scotia and 1 in New Brunswick. Our team at Atlantic Construction Podcast is extremely excited to announce our new co-branded partner, Procore. Procore is the global leader in construction management software. We'll be conducting several podcast episodes with Procore users and construction companies across the country in 2023, among many other things. Stay tuned. We're excited. Okay, welcome back to the Atlantic Construction Podcast. Very excited to have our guest here today. We have Doiron, Operations Manager, and Remy Leger, Sales Manager with ALLSCO Windows and Doors, wholesale, retail, and contractor for all your windows and doors needs. And siding as well. So thanks for joining us today, gentlemen. Made the trip over from New Brunswick today. It's plus 40, I think, with the
Humidex.
Thanks for the air conditioning. Yeah. The air conditioning on the way over, I'm sure.
Oh yes.
Yeah. So usually we get started by just a little bit of a background on our guests. So maybe Remy, if you want to just tell us a little bit about your journey. I know you were saying earlier that you spent some time at New Brunswick Community College and took marketing business there. And
from there I did a small stint at Cavendish Farms, worked there for a bit. Then after that transitioned to contact center and then worked as an analytical supervisor there. Then moved on to Atlantic Lottery Corporation.
Yeah, I've seen that.
I did sports management over there. So cool. Anything for Proline, we were putting out odds and stuff like that.
Awesome.
Shifts kind of got in the way, family time and stuff. So because they were all over the place, so ended up at ALLSCO, and best decision I ever made.
Yeah, so you've been there for how many years now?
Just over 5.
Okay.
Yep.
Nice. And yourself, Andre?
So I started
spent a lot of time in pretty much every position.
Every position almost. Yeah. So anyways, was a graduate out of University of Moncton, business administration. Operations specialty, and so then I worked in other window plants besides ALLSCO. I worked in one for Global Windows in Urshabaktu, and then eventually I came over to ALLSCO. So I've done positions across almost every division, from purchasing and IT, shipping, logistics, productions, operations, and I stand as the operation manager or director of operations at ALLSCO currently. So
okay, yeah, I mean, and that's got to help you in your position, operations manager, just to have the perspective. And when you're dealing with employees that are in different positions that you've been in, obviously they're going to respect you more. You're going to have intuition. Just tell us a little bit about how it helps in your current role, like to have gone through that journey.
It helps a lot to know what's going on. So it's, I know the ins and outs. I know the challenges that they have, that they can face, whether it's from, a production standpoint, a machinery standpoint, a staffing standpoint. So I have, more of a global view of everything they've done because I've been in their shoes. It's easier to help them as well if they're stuck or they have an issue. They can come to me and I can fix the problem pretty quick, or I know exactly where to guide them to get the answer if they need the answer. Mm-hmm. So with that, it helps, tremendously, because there's always challenges every single day. No matter where you're at, there's always an issue somewhere.
Yeah. I see Remy's laughing.
He's definitely the go-to guy. If you've got something you can't figure out, he's going to help you out for sure.
So Remy, in your role as sales manager, like, you were saying that, are you looking after, obviously you're both located in New Brunswick, where kind of the headquarters is for this Atlantic operation. You've got your manufacturing plant there. You've got a couple of satellite offices, one in Dartmouth and another one in, you say there's none in Newfoundland, one in Prince Edward Island, no?
Yeah, one in Charlottetown.
Okay, one in Charlottetown.
There's 5 in Nova Scotia overall.
Are you territoried out for sales manager? Are you looking after
I just run the store in Moncton for in the interim until my boss comes back. But right now it's me, another guy. We do the inside sales out, like small time outside sales for me.
Yeah.
And then more contractor base and then
Okay.
retail. So I touch on all three of the sales components, but
So you do deal with a lot of contractors that coming through the door.
Yeah.
Purchasing. Yeah.
and retail people like, hey, I'm building a house. Here's my house plans. You
Yeah.
know, I need to
Work with them on the design, what kind of windows, what kind where.
That's right.
All
Yeah.
that kind of stuff.
If you want it painted, not painted.
Yeah.
Your siding, I'll do your siding takeoffs.
Yeah.
So I'll calculate all that and then send them out quotes and stuff. And if they need help with builders, I have
Right.
contractors too that I use, because ALLSCO doesn't have a set of installers. So we kind of use our local market of contractors.
Right. There's no internal like install crew. It's all.
Now the all-weather
Yeah.
crew does. They all
Okay.
have their own installation crews, but
Okay.
ALLSCO does not. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
so I
so-
mean, any carpenter's going to be purchasing your windows. They're installing them themselves.
Yeah,
anyway,
typically,
right?
but if-
building envelope contract.
If they're buying from, our stores in Halifax or anywhere in Nova Scotia, they're mostly supply and install stores. So either more dedicated to homeowners going in, looking to do a renovation, or new construction, or, the contractors will buy from there as well. They'll buy direct from All Weather, they'll install it themselves. Just depends on what they're looking for. But, all options exist. In Moncton, we use specifically our own internal, customers that are contractors that we then hand off. Here's a takeoff, or here's a lead for you. You can go
Yeah.
talk to the customer and see if you guys can install it for us.
And then because most of your sales, I'm assuming, I could be wrong, are in the residential space. Like it's not like you're supplying a lot of heavy commercial projects. Like you're not kind of working with architects as a salesperson trying to get in the spec or.
No, but
that
we
much.
do have like some architects that we'll see come across our desk that we are spec'd in it. So we'll quote it. Even if we're not spec, we'll still quote it. We still quote on a fair bit of tenders regardless, whether we get them or not. We do quote them. So it just depends, where they're at. Can we supply them? It's a lot of time it comes down to pricing, what they're looking for.
Yeah, yeah. You mentioned a tender that you're shipping out a bunch of product to none of it. So that's a government tender that you guys worked on, or did you get that with a contractor, or was that just
We got it with our because we have a sister company up in Alberta
Okay.
and up in Winnipeg. So they've got the other contract. So we've built the windows for them and it's shipping out, but we're shipping direct to the client instead of going through Winnipeg and then back up.
All
So
right.
it's coming from here and going directly to Winnipeg. So
Okay. So you're manufacturing it here in your plant, shipping it out to.
correct.
Tell us a little bit about the details of that. Like it's a contractor, none of it building multi-unit housing.
It's mostly renovation that they're doing.
Oh,
So
it's
they're
renovation,
renovating. They're renovating units that are there for for local residents, which are older units. So they're renovating them. It's mostly all same size windows. It's cookie cutter, common sizes. So and it's only a few windows per residence. So I think the residents are very small is what they are, because I haven't seen the plans, but from the window details I can tell they're not very big residents, and they're just renovating. This is probably the fourth job we sent so far in the last 18 months. We sent 3 in 2022, and this is the first one for 2023 we're sending.
Okay, so
So
this
it's
is
been-
happening
it's
year
been
after year.
Well, it's been over several phases. I think this is probably one of the final phases.
And what's
when
the
we complete?
what's the volume like? Is it like?
Usually it's about 120 to 140 units going out every time.
And these are all different size windows.
They're all same size windows.
Okay.
All the same size.
Wow. And what size are they?
They're about I think they're 34 by 48.
Pretty standard size. Then.
Yeah, correct.
So is this something that you're seeing now? You mentioned earlier, like seeing a lot of renovations happening. Why do you think that is? Is it just timeline? Is it the buildings, or is there an environmental aspect where the building envelope is being upgraded and you're offering, triple pane instead of double pane, and low E, different styles and films and different door styles, and for heat retention, for cool in the summer, to protect the floors from the sun rays and things like that. Like, is there an environmental reason why that's happening up there if it's a government contract, or is there that side of things too with renovations?
No, I don't think there's an environmental thing. I think it's just the building envelopes are getting old, they're getting used, and they just need to get renovated. And
Right,
they're
it's just a
renovating
timeline thing, right?
Exactly,
It's
yeah.
40 to 60 years or whatever.
Yeah,
An update on the current energy ratings too. Like
Yeah.
once it has a shelf life eventually.
Yeah.
and keep in mind, I mean, they're in a much harsher climate than we are. Like they're in a very harsh climate. They have very limited time zones for construction. It gets cold fast. I mean, and like I said before, like we have those things are shipping by sea container. They're going by boat. There's only 3 boats here that go to that area, so they have a very limited time frame when they can actually do the project. So, but I would say it's all due to not just environmental, but just timing. Whereas the stuff is now past its life shelf. It needs to get replaced, and it's updated with current product.
So how are sales like, say, divided up between, assuming, as you mentioned earlier, Newfoundland is kind of, it's a tough distance-wise, logistically wise. PEI, New Brunswick, Nova Scotia is kind of sales spread between New Brunswick and Nova Scotia. Are you trying? Is it obviously an effort to grow more in the HRM area? Is there challenges there? Or?
HRM has always been our main focus to grow that market. And there's the potential of HRM is exponential, especially with, you look around, like, Remy said, when it came down, there's cranes everywhere, there's high rises going up, there's building apartments, there's a lot of multi-dwelling units going, so there's opportunity galore. It's just, it's really put the focus on that. We have strong markets in New Brunswick, strong markets in PEI, and we have very strong markets in outside HRM Nova Scotia. So South Shore, Valley area, those are sort of our strong markets. HRM, we have our presence, but obviously it's where we want to grow the presence because there's a massive opportunity there.
So Remy, with sales, are you making trips over to the Dartmouth location quite often, or touch base, or is that just kind of
I do deal with some of the salespeople in Dartmouth, but it's more of a partnership, not me.
Yeah.
They have their own thing going on, and we'll chat and see how things are going. Like, we stopped in on the way.
Yeah, always communicating. Yeah.
That's right. We stopped in on the way, and here actually, and then had a chat with one of the salespeople, Diane, and then just seeing how things were going. Right.
Yeah.
So.
And how are things right now for that location, and as far as the market here? Like, what's the kind of general consensus?
It's going good right now. Like, they're renovating their showroom full completely, so it's going to be, there's a full gut being done, a full update that's going to be done hopefully in the next couple of weeks, which will give it some new life. But they're overall, all weather as a brand in HRM has always been strong, so they're doing what they do, and they're still.
And that's one of your big lines, right? That you're carrying.
Correct. Yeah.
So that's kind of the hub for your retail in the HRM, then, the Dartmouth location, right?
Yeah, we used to have two locations, one in Cole Harbour, the one in Burnside that's here. We've basically
amalgamated the two.
Yeah, we put the two together, and everything's coming out of the Burnside location. So.
Okay. And tell us maybe a little bit more just about like the operations as a whole, just as far as, number of employees, your manufacturing plant, just kind of a bit of the company structure, just for listeners to understand, if there's people listening too that are curious of.
So at the Moncton facility, like we have about 120 people employed between floor staff, production workers, administration, head office. There's about 120 people that are there, including the other location where Remy's at, which is our Edinburgh location. So our sales office, there's people there as well to manage the warehouse, shipping, logistics, and the customer and the retail side. So the plant, essentially, we manufacture everything at plant. So we manufacture all of our windows, our doors, and patios are all manufactured at the plant, including thermal panes. We do our own thermal panes directly at the plant. And then we bring in the wholesale stuff, where it be siding, cladding, those type of things, exterior building envelope items that are just resold afterwards.
Right. So what other building envelope items? It's mainly cladding products, right?
Yeah, I'll let Remy know that.
Yeah, so we have, there's many lines in the siding. You have the vinyl, and then we have this composite siding that is caught on a little bit, starting to catch on more so now in our area. It's you get what you pay for. It's a nice product. It's well made, solid. Then you have your normal vinyl, which every house has been on, that they haven't installed on. So the price points are all different. So there's something for everybody.
Yeah, and some of them are more suited for commercial.
Yeah, we do provide an aluminum siding.
Okay.
But that would be exactly more for a commercial or a multi-unit residence, for an accent wall kind of on the outside.
Right. Nice. So what about, we were talking earlier about some of the different specifics, like for what you'd recommend in certain situations, like for glazing, for windows and doors, like as far as whether it's double pane or triple pane or different films, different low E, maybe just talk a little bit about some of the details like that you usually are working with when someone comes with a house plan, or if there's hardwood floors, you want a certain film. There's lots on the south side. There's lots of glass and just stuff like that. Just for
listeners. And that's changed, I guess.
Ever changing.
It's ever changing, and it's changed a lot in the last 10, 15 years.
How do you stay on top of that? Are you going to seminars? Or are you just dealing with different?
So most manufacturers, not all, most manufacturers are part of a manufacturer association for windows, which is called Fenestration Canada, which they have essentially, work groups. They have, annual meetings. There's usually one in Toronto, Montreal every year. And then there'll be another one in the springtime for the AGM, so basically the annual meeting, where you'll have workshops. They'll talk. Government members will come in, talk about where the Energy Star is going, where the new guidelines are going, where the building code is changing, what new products is. Vendors will be there, and there's also the internal research that we have to do internally just to keep up with the times. What we have noticed is customers have caught up to us very fast, and they've actually. Some of them surpassed our knowledge because they had done a lot of research on their end.
The customers is in the builders that are buying them from you,
the builders and the end homeowner user.
Right.
Like the internet and everything they have access to is overwhelming, and they have a lot of information out, and they ask a lot of good questions that we haven't
that's a
seen
good
before.
sign. People are
Exactly,
putting
they're
that much
interested and they want to know more, and they want to figure out what the best is.
Yeah.
So
well, spending the money. They want
exactly,
to know.
and what we're seeing too is that there's it's not just I want windows and I'll take a low-E glazing package. It's changing in the glazing package as in different low-E's for different elevations. So your south side versus your north side, your passive solar versus your solar blocking. All these things are coming into effect. So it's not just I offer windows with low-E and this is what it is. It's now changing on different elevation. I want different low-E's because I have different functions.
Different elevations, so it's level 1, level 2, level 3 kind of
exactly,
thing.
Or just south-facing versus north-facing.
Right.
What's coming more and more is now we're going into solar blocking glass versus passive solar. So passive solar was very, very popular in the last, we'll say 20 years. We're going to solar blocking. People are investing heavily in HVACs. They're putting massive heat pumps in their home. They're putting, geothermic pumps, yes, we're putting a lot of mini splits in, et cetera, for what they're doing, but they're trying to couple the windows with the HVAC package.
So how involved are you guys with that? I mean, is that just up to the contractor what they're buying? Their deal, or the builders who's dealing with both subcontractors? Or?
Typically, if they're doing an energy audit or they're having the house energy modeled, they'll need to have information from us to figure out what's the low package, what's the R values, what's the the U factors, the U values, et cetera, and then they'll model the house. Say, okay, with what you're providing, we say that this is the heat pump they're going to need, et cetera, so that everything goes together. So before, I don't think they were looking at the house as a complete envelope. It was more like, I'll get the windows and outdoors and the heat pump. No, now it's all tied together. As if you're investing into a proper low-E or you're doing the right windows on the right facade of your house, it modifies your heat pump purchase. It either can bring down or increase your decision on how many tons of a heat pump you're going to buy. So all that changes depending on what you're doing. So people are much more aware, and and a lot of time we try to explain, Remy does as well, is that even if you're putting in 5 or 7% more on your windows to increase the triple glaze,
and that's all it is to increase the triple glaze.
It's about 5-7%. You're going to save it and more on your heating cost and cooling cost, because people keep talking about heating costs.
You're going to save it in a short amount of time.
Exactly, and cooling cost is now 2021.
Cooling cost is now more.
Cooling costs has surpassed the heating cost we had.
Especially with the winter we've been having. Yeah,
exactly. So we've now increased the cooling cost. So now, we're no longer in a climate where it's only heat
most of the time. Yeah,
it is. We have to look at cooling costs.
I'll look at today.
Yeah.
Exactly. Today's a perfect example. So the energy you're creating, it's and people say, oh, it's a heat increase. No, it's the energy. The energy, which could be cool air, the energy you've created with your heat pump. You want to retain that energy. You don't want to lose your cool through the windows or the doors. So you're looking for a proper low-E package, which if you're going triple glaze or you're going with a solar blocking glass, you're going to retain what your heat pump put into your house for a longer amount of time.
What are you hearing from contractors like these days? Is does anything jump out? Yeah, I'm sure you're talking to them all the time, and they're saying like, yeah, we like this product, we don't like that one. Like, just what's anything on your mind in that regard? Or?
They're usually going like they'll talk to their customers and stuff, and usually it's the customer, the end user, that goes, well, I want this type of window or I want this, right? So
it's really
sometimes you can kind of sway them depending on what they're trying to do. For instance, like there's that energy grant from the federal government, right? So a lot of people have to come in, but you have to hit the current standard of the energy rating, which is 34 currently.
Right.
So if you don't hit that, then your energy audit is going to fail, and you're not going to get the grant back from
right. So
government.
obviously your windows is very important to hit that. Yeah.
And sometimes a lot of people don't know that, right? So you try to explain because they want grills in there, and grills are unfortunately aluminum. So aluminum conducts heat, conducts cold. So therefore it takes down your energy rating. So And once they find that out, they're like, oh, okay, well, then I'm not going to go with the grills. I'll just take a standard window. And then,
Yeah.
you know, all in every single one of our windows, including our, I'd call them contractor grade or, you know, our stock windows, those all hit, every single one of them hit the minimum target of 34 for energy rating.
Is there, installation wise, have you heard anything from contractors like, yeah, we like this line better? It just seems I mean, they're shimming them out. They got the right dimensions on the rough opening. It's probably not much different, and they're fastening with the whatever fasteners. But anything like the contractors seem to really like or not like? Or?
From what I hear, they like working with our window because it's a robust frame. Like it's a one piece frame, right? So the brick mold and the frame plus the returns are all one piece. So is
that all weather windows that you're talking about? Like, is that the line you're?
This is the ALLSCO premium window, right?
ALLSCO premium. Okay, right.
Which goes to every one of our vendors and our sister companies.
Okay.
So when they put they just say it's robust. So they like the rigidity of it when they're installing it because it feels.
That's like your Ford Model T,
right? And,
sort of, yeah.
And see, like a lot of companies. A lot of our competitors still have a good, better, best window, right? We only have our window. Like there's one line plus our stock line.
Okay.
So it's when people say like, well, I'd like these people are quoting me this or giving me this, and I'm like, I got to make sure I'm comparing apples to apples because sometimes they'll be like, well, they're less expensive. I get that, but our window is our top window, like because we only have one line.
So you're talking. This is an advantage that you would say that you have for as far as like dealing with your main competitors like Coltec and Atlantic, and who are the others?
Coltec, Atlantic, Global, and Extreme.
Okay, and so this is So
yeah, we put as much value as possible into the window. Like we don't cheap out on hardware. We don't.
It's quality over.
It's quality over everything else. So we use European style hardware, which is from Roto. We use our cardinal glazing, and our frames and sash systems are very close to what thickness it was back in the early 90s. So over time,
why did that change then?
It's just 90s? Procedures has changed, extrusions has changed, that you can thin out the walls and still meet certain, the criteria.
Like a 6-inch versus an 8-inch exterior wall?
Yeah, sort of like that, exactly. Like the extrusion has thinned out over time just for saving material, saving costs, etc. And, everything has been made a bit better, but we've kept our old wall thicknesses from way back when. So, many of times we'll hear, that Card will come in and say, yeah, when I put ALLSCO windows in, I need an extra set of hands because that's much heavier to get into the RSO. Versus if I use XYZ, yeah, they're a little bit lighter. So our frames are beefy. We have a lot of reinforcement. We use, quite a bit of steel on our products. So for example, our single hung side sliders, our meeting rails, our sash rails, are all reinforced with steel inside. Doesn't matter if it, sash is 2 inches or 10 inches wide versus 35 inches wide. They're reinforced no matter what.
Right, and that's going to make the product a lot more expensive to produce, right?
It does, but when you put it, we look at it over the volume of all the products we're making, it's not that much more. And you look at the return you're having, the return essentially is we don't have the callbacks. Like we don't have sashes bowing in the field or, stuff that's not locking correct because the sashes are all crooked because, again,
everything's heavy duty.
Everything's heavy duty. The locks are heavy duty. The reinforcement's heavy duty. It's all steel, and it's not thin steel. We're talking, between 14, most of it's 14 gauge galvanized steel, and, other ones are 12 gauge galvanized steel. That's 1/8 of steel that's built into the window.
What about PVC versus like the hybrid with LaFlamme, your partner? Like, what do you recommend to people if they're asking? What's the difference and why go with one over the other?
The only reason the whole thing over why, hybrid has taken over popularity is because of colors. So
you can't produce the same colors with just straight PVC.
Well, it's not that. It's that there's a lot more painting now, and at least with aluminum,
doesn't it take the paint as well?
It's not that it doesn't get paint. It's just you can have you have your PVC window. It's a hybrid, so what it is, it's aluminum cladding. So you can have on your shelf brown, beige, black. If you want a blue window, if you have the stock, it's just cladded on top. It's snapped on, right? And it's a lot easier to produce. Instead of having to paint the whole thing, you can just buy the extrusion with already pre-coated, and that makes it quicker for the manufacturing process. Okay. The other thing too is that when frames have went from 3 1/4 inch to 4.5 inches. So frame depth has increased because we've went from 2x4 walls to 2x6 walls. If you're building Quebec, you're building 2x8s, and it's just getting, there's people doing ICF walls that are 12 inches thick. So what happens is that manufacturers have started to increase the depth of the window. So once you get to a 4.5 inch, you're recessing the glass further into the house because you want the glass on the warm side.
On the warm side, yes.
So by doing that, you've now created a recess in, and with low E, because it reflects, low E reflects the sunlight rays of UV. So what happens is that you have the sun hitting the low E, it's bouncing off the glass, and now instead of hitting the ground, because you recess the glass, it's hitting the frame. And then what happens is that everyone in the industry uses heat reflective paint. That then reflects back, hits the glass, and it starts bouncing back and forth.
Okay.
To the point that the frame starts to superheat and the frame starts to weaken out because it's going to 120 to 140 degrees Celsius in the sunlight because of the heat reflection between the low E and the paint.
And what's the result of the frame weakening out like that?
It eventually will start to fall apart.
Right, it'll bow and
it will bow, or you can take your finger, put your finger right to the vinyl.
Right.
So the aluminum is where it really came. So once you went to 4.5, because you don't see any 3.25 standard frame depths with clad. You're going to see 4.5 inch because they introduced a clad to be able to stop that effect. Because then you notice that when this happens with the clad, at least the aluminum's holding up, versus the vinyl. It is at the end of the day, it is vinyl. It's plastic.
Right.
It has its limits.
Can you speak any on the Royal Select cellular composite siding? Is that something that you've sold anything of yet? Like I'm assuming that's going to take a pretty high volume to sell something like that. Like, or do you even, is that something that you're kind of even on your mind at this point?
No, we can get that siding.
Anytime.
Like I've had a customer who's out in Alma, so on the Fundy Coast, came in. He's like, I want that siding. I'm like, all right, no problem. We ordered the siding. I did the takeoff, the whole house. And then it came on the same siding truck as our normal vinyl siding truck, right? Like it's just an extra.
Just costs
it's
$20 to $30 more a square.
Oh, you're,
a square foot.
It's definitely it's a pricey. It's definitely a pricier siding, but it is definitely one of the better sidings that I've seen.
Okay.
And when you put it on, it's paintable too. Like, you know what I mean? Like you can. It's got a multitude of I'd say.
Versatile.
Yeah, versatile. Yeah, versatility. Yeah. So you could paint it.
It's got the presence of wood.
Exactly, right? Because it even has, like, you can feel the wood grain.
So it's kind of similar to, there's Mac Metal has products that have a wood grain look on them, right? Or Dizelle is a cladding site for commercial building where they actually digitally print a wood. It's different than those, but it's kind of the same effect, right?
In that degree, instead of a vinyl sticker on this, it's literally printed into it, so you'll never lose that feeling of that wood grain.
Right. Yeah, it's embossed.
Yeah. So, and you're looking at probably close to a quarter inch, half inch thick, right? So like you take it, you
what do the guys say who've used it about installing it? They like the product.
They said it's so easy to install. Right. It's great. And I mean, every 50 feet, you do have to add like a spacing board just because it'll move, right? Like it'll start to sag.
It's fairly light. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. But it can take abuse though.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm bringing it up because I find it very interesting. There's so many different cladding products, but I'm thinking also in the back of my mind, like as far as growth and HRM, you see, look at the multi-res, same thing in New Brunswick to a maybe lesser degree just because of the size and the population, but there's lots of high volume projects where if there's an architect listening in hasn't heard of that product, or you know, a cladding contractor, there's a dozen of them these are just cladding contractors they're not building the homes or the residents, they're just doing siding, right? I mean, it's a product that they'd probably like to take a look at if they haven't heard of it, or maybe even give it a try on a building, right? So there's all of a sudden you could have
I'd say I'd compare it almost to like a cement cladding board that they use, right? Like it's similar to that, except it's lighter. It's
okay, and
probably less expensive, I'm guessing.
So what we haven't talked a whole lot about entrance doors and patio doors. What can we kind of extract from those two kind of categories? What's some things that we should touch on? I mean, there's just so many options, right? As far as
it's probably the most used product and the most complex product that anyone builds,
and to install too sometimes, right? Depending on the hardware, these are very intricate.
If
things.
you're-
Not everyone can install the hardware on all these different kinds of products, right? It
If
takes
your hinges are off, your door is going to lean. And
Yeah.
it's not going to close. And
Yeah. So what about installing? Just to start, like you have some install crews for some of the doors and like that you manufacture, or no? This is
Well, the All Weather Group installs all the
All-weather,
doors.
okay. Yeah.
And again, in Moncton, like Remy said, we use our current contract that we will send leads to them to do it. But yeah, like doors in general, like doors have come a long way. There's a lot of stuff that's changed in doors.
As far as the efficiency of installation and producing them, is that
Not necessarily the efficient installation, but just the product
simplicity?
lines.
Okay.
the accessories, like
If we
anything.
look at like
More simplified now, maybe than.
We'd like to welcome our newest partner here at AC Media, the Freeman Group. Freeman Group Financial works closely with business owners, professionals, and retirees as their primary custodial wealth manager. The Freeman Group is targeting contractors and people in the construction industry as they move forward. The Freeman Group is a great choice for all your financial wealth management with a local touch. We look forward to having the Freeman Group on our podcast several times throughout the next 12 months with specific financial educational episodes.
Quick shout out to the newest sponsor of the show, the Stone Depot. The Stone Depot is located in Bears Lake, Halifax, but serves all of the East Coast. The showroom over 8,000 square feet, perfect for masonry contractors, landscaping contractors, builders, developers. Regardless, the Stone Depot is a great option for you, whether you're doing fire pits, patio stones, kitchen and interior stones. So if you're looking for a great stone supplier, visit the Stone Depot. This episode is brought to you by Airtight Spaces. Airtight Spaces is Atlantic Canada's first authorized aero barrier dealer. They help create comfortable, healthy, and durable living environments with the added benefit of energy efficiency. Air sealing is a critical step towards net zero buildings. Using air pressure to automatically guide sealing guarantees the highest quality results in the least amount of time with the least amount of effort. If air sealing is important to you, you can visit Airtight Spaces at www.airtightspaces.com. Pivot Bookkeeping is your one-stop shop and customizable bookkeeping, tax, and filing service. With Pivot, you have the peace of mind knowing your taxes are always filed on time and your bookkeeping is reconciled often. Using their non-proprietary software and applications, all of your business finances are securely handled by their local account managers. Pivot takes great pride in providing you with unlimited support and a direct line to your account managers right here in Nova Scotia. Whether you're an established business looking for new options and increase efficiency, or a newer company looking to build a solid foundation for future growth, Pivot has a product that can be modified to your needs. Consider making the pivot today. Book a free consultation at pivotbookkeeping.com.
No, actually get more complex because
Okay.
what's happened is that Windows for the longest time they've been through the ringer with regards to testing, certification. They've been through test labs, and really up until about 2010, 2015, doors were sort of left alone. They didn't really have to be tested, and everyone was building a door, and there was not really, I guess, enough standardization or policing on what people were doing with doors. Once the new building codes came into effect in 2015, NAFS was introduced. Then NAFS got pushed in, and then doors had to follow that standard. Then things started to happen. So we started to see a lot more testing on doors, how the doors are constructed, how tight the doors are, because you used to have people that would just have doors that were built very loosely, as in you'd close the leaf and it wouldn't be really tight. It should
Against the
leak
frame,
air
yeah.
because it was just a door, right? Now it's got to go through testing, so now they're extremely tight. There's less play. Before you could probably be a 16th off on your plumb and say, it works. Now it don't work no more because we've closed the gapping.
Right, you're
So-
dialed in that much. It's beyond just a 30-second.
Exactly. After 30 seconds, you have problems in operation. So all those things have changed. The way our sill systems have changed, the sweeps, weather stripping. Most manufacturers, if not all have dual weather strip now on doors, not just your first weather strip. They have a secondary, thin weather strip, which is a polyflex. So all these things have been added to doors. The amount of different glass packages, the slab styles, the colors.
The glass, yeah.
It's exploded in what it used to be. There's no longer this, I'm just buying a single door. It's a door with two side lights. And what continues to be, I guess, a struggle in this market, as in the maritime market, is we are in a harsh climate. So, we have bad winters, we have windstorms, we have ice storms.
Moisture.
We're not in Florida, we're not in California.
Yeah.
So, the door styles that people need to or are buying sometimes don't necessarily meet the climate. They want some guys will want a double operating door. It's not designed for a front entrance. If you're living in Florida, maybe. California, yeah, fine.
Because of the consistent climate and the consistent temperature. right?
Exactly. If you're living in Arizona, you're not worried about rain infiltration. But if you're here, you're worried about rain. you're worried about water infiltration. So there's all these things that's still an issue. The doors, all the manufacturers build a bunch of different things, build a lot of different things now, but it's still that issue where there's certain doors that are just not made for this climate.
So when it comes to manufacturing in the plant, what's the square footage of the plant there in New Brunswick?
77,000 square feet.
Okay, so it's a big spot.
And it's jam packed.
Yeah.
Every square inch has been utilized. There's not a square inch left.
No.
So what's the assembly process like when you're manufacturing these doors? Like, you got a lot of different parts coming in from all over as far as like gathering the ingredients and then you're putting it together. Like, it's got to take a lot of the floor space, just the doors, as opposed to the windows. Or
the door shop probably takes the biggest floor space just for raw materials.
yeah,
so
and the most manpower too, just for the
not necessarily the most manpower,
but the most specialized maybe.
The most specialized manpower, because you need guys that are very, very good with their hands, and they're almost like they're artistic people. Like they have very, very good craftsman capabilities. They can use
so
their saws.
what's the background of most of these guys working there? Do they have millwork background? Do they have
They're not necessarily millwork, but a lot of them, they've been in construction. They've either been installers,
Right.
they've worked on construction crews.
Are they guys that are kind of maybe getting a little bit older and don't want the heavy lifting anymore and are trying to do something more detailed? Is that a lot of what makes up this employee
doors
base?
are probably, if you want no heavy lifting, doors is not where you need to go.
Okay, well, you're lifting the slabs. Yeah.
The slabs
the
and then the
jams.
doors,
And the jams and
everything
frames and
else.
thresholds and
Exactly.
everything,
the doors
yeah.
are getting bigger and bigger and bigger as time goes. So there's, we build big doors sometimes. So, but
Okay.
it's
But it's very specialized.
it's very, very specialized, and you have to understand that the door is the most important purchase for fenestration products to a customer's house. It's what they're going to use every single day. They may have a window in a bedroom that they're never going to use.
Yeah, they might open it and leave it for the summer and then close
Exactly.
it. Yeah.
But the door, you go in and out every single day. And now the door is becoming the home's showpiece. Just like in a house,
Yeah, the
the
entrance
kitchen
system.
is
Yeah.
a showpiece, or the inside. For the outside, it's
your curb
the front
appeal.
entry.
It's your curb
Yeah.
appeal, right?
So people are going, into fiberglass, they're going to wood grain, they're going to heavy stains, into specialized paints. Like, they're doing all this to give it the best curve possible. So the door is the focal point of the home, and
Right.
it's the piece that has to have the most care, building, shipping, as well as installation.
But do you see a lot of homeowners with entrance systems that aren't like a single door slab, that are double?
Those are all pretty much, I'd
Everyone?
say 7 out of 10
Yeah.
for your front door. It's got
Yeah.
either one side light, two side lights,
Yeah.
two side lights and a transom. Like, it's all
And
over
then
the
any
place.
number of different materials for the slab itself, or what's typically
And this market is still steel. Like,
Yeah.
I would say 90%.
because it has to be because of the climate?
No, it's just it's what everyone's been used to using.
But you do see the odd one that's maybe like a wood product, a hardwood
fiberglass.
maybe, or no?
Fiberglass.
Fiberglass. Okay.
An actual true wood,
Oh, it's
Rarely.
less than 1%, because
Yeah.
you can get an entrance system, let's say like a door and two side lights, fiberglass stained for maybe a couple thousand, maybe we'll call it between 2,000 to 5,000 depending on your glass package. You're going to an all wood product, like a very high end product, you're looking at 25,000 to 30,000 for the entrance system. So there's a big price gap. Those are
Yeah.
very, very specialized products.
Yeah, those are.
There's got to be some homes up in Bedford there
Yeah,
or
it's the
somewhere.
top 1% on that
down
one.
on the peninsula here. There's probably
Yeah.
a few. With
Yeah.
this.
But for steel is just the most commonly used one. It's most commonly, used by all the manufacturers. It's got the most embossment styles that people have. If you're using fiberglass, normally they want something that's a little more durable. They want something that's, going to last the test of time, better insulating value. And if you're using a slab that is a wood grain, you have the option of standing it so it looks like a wood door, but it's a fiberglass door.
So you're not. It looks like wood, but you're not paying a wood price.
Yeah.
Right? And then a lot of times, what we'll suggest too is to add. It's called
Similar
a
to the siding product we were just talking about, right? It has that wood effect.
Exactly. Yeah. So
exactly.
you usually, for a fiberglass door, you want to add like a multi-point lock, which it pins at 3 points, right? The top, the middle, and the bottom. So that helps with any type of, let's say it sits in the sun all day or cold, right? So it'll want to warp depending on how big your door is. So with the multi-point lock, that helps with securing that door tight every time. So
Okay. So what about patio doors? That's got to be an interesting,
So patio doors for us has been,
pretty standard sliding.
interesting journey, we'll call it.
yeah,
So it's not like a big sales point right now.
No,
it
it
sounds like.
it
they're
is
popular.
I mean, they got it pretty much on every house that you're going to build.
Exactly. And the thing is, for us as ALLSCO, like we've always, in the back in the 90s, we were building our own patio door. Then we got out of building patio doors. We were a wholesaler patio. We would buy a patio door from, a manufacturer out in Quebec. We would resell it. And that we did that for many, many years. But then, in like 2015, 16, as I started looking at it again, we looked at everything. It's like, okay, we need to come back to making our own doors on patio specifically. So then 2018, we introduced in the line patio doors, started doing little
So
small
how does that
assemblies.
happen? How do you integrate a new line within internally in ALLSCO? Is that your initiative, and then you kind of get some people around,
Yep.
you design the product, you put it together, the logistics, you put together the
it's
assembly
initiative
of it?
that I put together for first and foremost, because we're looking at pricing, competitiveness, market, and we needed to get back into that product line.
It's pretty innovative then.
Then yes, well, again, what we started with really was
We didn't reinvent the wheel.
we
Right,
just
you're
bought
making your own line.
we bought
right?
we bought a really what we call a knockdown program. So it's a program that basically the extruders have already set. It's already
But
pre-cut.
the frame is knocked down. Is that what you mean?
Yeah. So essentially, it's you buy the parts like in IKEA.
Right, it's gonna go, your
It's already
jams, your header.
pre-machined.
Right,
You just
okay.
put it together based on your composition, and then we moved out of that and we went from that now to back to a lineal program. So we build a patio door from scratch. So it comes into all fully lineal programs. So it's all extrusion. We cut, we mill, we machine, we assemble from scratch, and can make any
configuration.
configuration you're looking for. So 5 foot, 6 foot, 8 foot, 9 foot, 12 foot, 16 foot, transoms, side lights.
What's a typical size?
6 foot is your most common one.
6 foot width by
That's
6 foot width and 81 inch
79
height.
and a half to
Yeah,
81,
yeah.
And I mean, mostly you'll get the 5 foot patio doors kind of come in from the renovation side. So
Yeah.
people that homes are built 1980s, stuff like that, right? They weren't as big. So they go the standard 5 foot patio door. So then they just put that one in.
But we're seeing a big uptake in 9 footers, so 3-panel 9 foot doors. We're seeing a big uptake in 12 footers, so a fixed operative fix with the two centers open in the center. We're seeing more of those. The 9 footers are by far becoming the most popular thing we're seeing on new construction builds. Even on semi-detaches, we're seeing row houses. We're seeing all have 9 foot, so they're higher end semis. They're not just your standard 6 foot. And we're seeing as well on even apartment buildings. We did one in Moncton. We're installing one or delivering one in a couple of weeks. It's all 9 footers, 5 stories, all 9 foot doors.
Okay, so how many patio doors in this apartment? There's a 50 unit. Is it?
It's 20.
Okay.
That's for Sean, so it's
Sean's is
30.
34, I think.
34. Yeah.
All right. So who's Sean? What company?
He's our senior.
If he's listening in.
He's ALLSCO.
Oh, he's with
but
ALLSCO. Okay,
he's
I
the
thought you were
se-
talking about the contract.
He's the senior sales guy we got,
Okay.
like 26 years in. So
Right.
Yeah.
So that's pretty important role then.
yeah.
Well, is there an initiative or is there a goal to try? As you mentioned, like a lot of your sales, say majority of it, is single family homes, maybe duplexes, maybe semi-detached. But obviously you do some larger projects. Is that something that's like on the agenda to change, to try and supply more like high volume? Because I just thinking of like the amount of different scales throughout. Even I'm just thinking of Nova Scotia, particularly aside from New Brunswick, which is probably similar. Like so many 20 to 50 unit buildings happening in rural Nova Scotia, and then even 100 units, and then in the downtown core it's 200 plus. It's different. Whether or not they're using PVC or your frame types or different styles of patio doors and windows they're going to consider, but there's a lot of residential like wood frame, say under 6-story buildings that are 80 to 100 units that you could be supplying. Like is that kind of on the agenda to start
It's
to
on the
enter
agenda,
that?
and we quote them when the tenders come across our desk. And strategically we're trying to go more to that market because again, Dartmouth, HRM, Halifax, and even New Brunswick, the MDUs are starting to increase. Single dwellings are decreasing year over year. Multi-dwellings are increasing. That's where we need to go. That's where our next focus is going to have to be.
All right.
And then what we need to make sure the infrastructure there is available. And me and Ray were talking coming down as well, is that, that market cannot be approached the same way we approach a residential market. Right. It's a completely different market, different set of rules to play by. So you need project managers, you need guys that are going to, take the leads from the GCs and say, here's your building. Okay, let me just get this all figured out for you. Do all the quoting, go back and forth. talk with the architect. Because some of the architect's going to put something on the plans, and you're looking going, okay, that's impossible. Either cannot be built or it's not. It shouldn't be built depending on where it's going. They're going to go, after that talk with the HVAC guys to make sure that everyone's in line with what they're doing. They're going to be on site when the site stuff is delivered. They're going to check the installs from the GCs to make sure they're within compliance. They're going to be back and forth and back and forth. They're going to go back on site and make adjustments to the windows after install to make sure the operation's all perfect. They're going to go back in and put all the screens in after construction, because the screens usually get destroyed or dirty because they're drywalling and everything else. So there's all these things that have to happen. Yeah. Where we have to put that infrastructure in place to make sure if we want to go down that market, which we know we have to, and we will go down that market, we have to be ready for the customer demand, because it's a whole different customer. It's not a homeowner, it's a contractor that has multiple units that we have to make sure we do accordingly.
For sure. Yeah, I think definitely the timing wise for right now, for sure, in Nova Scotia is good for that, for sure. I mean, there's lots of there's other competitors out there that are there, but
the opportunity
is so busy, right, in that regard, in that space. That
the opportunities there for sure.
Yeah,
multiple.
But what would be the first step then? It's like it's not going to be a problem to manufacture more, because you have lots of abilities for output, but it's not going to be. You might need to hire a project manager or someone to deal with the design, deal with the contractor. But other than that, is like logistically, it's just higher volume, right? So you're just shipping out more.
There's going to be, the project managers. There's going to be the guys that go on site. There's going to be the logistics of, more.
But the contractor's going to be installing your windows, right, on these ones for sure.
No, they are. But they still need someone that's there on site. They still need, logistically, we need more fleet, more trailers, more vans to move the stuff. So
almost like a project matter specialist, right?
Yeah.
Like on that specific.
And then
like
once
on
that's set up, you just implement it in sales and
And there's got to be focus with the architects, making sure you're on the spec, making sure you're being spec correctly, and 10 to 1, there's, the project managers are going to have 2 or 3 GCs, and they're going to build that relationship, and they're going to keep, they're not going to have 50,000 customers. Like, Remy could have in the course of a year between, 15 to 250 clients that walk through his door.
Okay.
Project manager going to have is like, his 3 or 4 key customers that he's going to have, and he's going to deal with those customers.
Yeah.
And the next project manager is going to deal with another 3 or 4 customers. It's not going to be widespread, because you need to build a relationship and understand the crews and get to know each other.
Just the detail involved in each project would be massive,
it's very
right?
different,
so you wouldn't be able to do that, and on top of that, be a retail sales guy or like a contractor sales guy. Like the focus would have to be laser focus on that one project. Yeah, and I'm kind of like digging into this or pressing this a little bit, because it's interesting, because it's not like we're dealing with a multinational corporation, right? It's a company. It's a fair size local company. It's a big local company. But just to implement a change like that, what it looks like and what the first step is, like you have to get the chicken before the egg, so to speak. Like you have to talk to the architects and have 1 or 2 big clients first before you spend the money to kind of implement the plan. Or
it would have to be that.
And you were saying like they're going to be complex, but a lot of these projects might be that you start working on, let's say like they're 6 or 4-story wood frame buildings and they're 80 units. But a lot of times in most of these jobs, depending on the architect, depending on the situation, a lot of it is mirror image from one floor to the next. A lot of it's compartmentalized. So really, as long as you can supply one unit and you have the volume capabilities, maybe it's not as complicated as
no, it's
one
not.
might
Like
think.
the building of it is not like, but it's the follow through after. Like it's kind of like the service during.
Yeah, and I'm not saying it's not complicated.
No,
I just mean like in a way, it's more just like
it'd be the service the before, during and after, right? Like you got to make sure everything's like it's like. You dot your I's and cross your T's essentially for every single unit, every window, every door. You make sure everything seals properly. Like you was saying earlier, it's making sure that the window, if it's tilting a little bit, you make the adjustment, make sure it's on right. If it's a little bit too much spray foam, right, you'd have to take that out, kind of,
Plus, if it's a new contractor, you're going to want to like make sure that
you're going to want to service
built and service them really extremely well.
100%.
And even though like the windows are, or the products are probably mirror image floor to floor, depending how many floors you're going up, depending what building code implications there is. So, your first, second floor, third floor might be, regular construction, and then you might have to increase different type of construction on your fourth or fifth or sixth floor. There might be external reinforcements. There might be some extra steel's got to be added, additional capping. Like, depends on how high you're going.
And depends where it is. If it's out in the water, well, the wind's going to be a lot stronger on the water than it is in the woods, right? So then you're gonna have to change the windows, because there's limitations to the windows. So then you got to add
Yeah.
Like Andre was saying, more steel. You got to add, you know,
Right. So you're going to have to still
reinforce.
change the product itself
Yeah.
as in
As you
manufacturing.
move up, yeah.
Right,
And sometimes it's even the actual configuration. Like they may want, you know, a larger glass unit, and we're looking, okay, well, this window is being put on the 10th floor. You can't do that. You have way too much glass, too much deflection. You need to break it out. You can get the same size window, but instead of having this massive picture window, then you're going to break it up into 2 or 3 sections just to get it down because it's just too big. It just depends on where it's being located.
Because glass only has so much flexibility,
right.
which is otherwise it'll just snap, right? So,
Yeah, I'm trying to extract as much from the scenario here as I was thinking of, like if an architect right now is listening, or even a developer who does put up buildings of 100 units or more, like all you need really is 1 or 2 of those people to reach out and be interested in starting a relationship to kind of initiate that process of moving into that space. And then really maybe your statement is like, you know, ALLSCO is quality over it's quality, right? So if this is a developer who takes the products a little more seriously and the building itself, which you are seeing now more, and you're seeing that more for reasons that are net zero even, or built like building envelope is a big thing. Still, developers and builders are going to do things that, you know, the lowest cost they can, unless there's a good enough reason, but there almost is a good enough reason now for a lot. So you're kind of in a good position there too, in the people that we've talked to on our platform and our media, as far as when it comes to things like that, like net zero and building envelope and that kind of thing. So if quality over quantity is ALLSCO's, you know, that's a big factor too in that
It's a
regard.
very big factor, but the overall service for, you know, a big GC building a big unit, it's the product alone is not going to do it. They need like Remy said, the service before, during, after, and the product. It's got to be the entire package.
Yeah.
Product alone won't sway them. And the thing is that those projects are also years in advance. So, you know, none of the GCs in, let's say, HRM say, okay,
They're going to make a decision on windows. They're making it 2 years before the windows are going in, at least.
Exactly.
2 years,
And the buildings are building this year, not being decided this year. The buildings are building in 2030.
10 years ago.
They were decided 3 years ago.
No, I know. It's a long entry
So
point to come
as
through.
we, you know, we have project managers come on board and start to court those GCs and start to talk to those architects, it's really looking at, okay, you're trying to build a relationship for the 2025 build. And 2024 is actually already gone, in my opinion. You're looking at 2025, 2026 before you can start pushing that in, unless you get a couple, you know, quick wins and you get lucky on a couple tenders, and you shift to you. But once you start building that, we have a couple of good GCs we've built some good relationship with. We've had a couple projects there, so all that will come. It's just the timing and, you know, how the effort we got to put in that. It needs a lot of work.
Wow. Yeah, it's lots to think about there. What about PEI? We didn't touch a lot on that. You have an office in Charlottetown. It's been really busy there, obviously. Are you spending any time there, you as individuals, or how are things going in the market there for you specifically?
For being, you know, the smallest province with the smallest population, is probably one of our busiest sectors in out of all the provinces. The amount of product we send over to Prince Edward Island is an incredible amount.
Quick trip too.
It's a quick trip, and we go to PEI. We have 2 tractor trailer loads that go over twice a week.
Right.
So we're there twice a week, sometimes 3 times a week. You know, there's weeks that we're overloaded. We can't get it in one truck. It's 2 trucks going or 3 trucks going to get it over there. We have a lot of good loyal dealers, a lot of good builders.
Are those trucks making like a day trip over? Like, is that
just a
quick,
day trip?
eh?
Yeah. So we try to do, for example, one side of the island, so like the east side for one trip, of the west side the other trip.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a very, very popular market. It's a very good market.
and it's a good thing that our outside sales guy lives on PEI too.
Okay.
Yeah,
Nice.
so-
we have
Want to mention his name in case he's listening?
Jeff Leary.
Yeah, Jeff
Jeff
Leary.
Leary, okay.
He lives in Borden. He lives in PEI. And
Okay.
Yeah, it's a small place.
So he
too,
just
where
picks up the windows on the other side then. Carries them over.
we
That's
just drove
right.
across the bridge.
Yeah.
But you know, he's local, and they know everyone knows each other. It's a very, very small community. Everyone knows everyone.
Yeah. I'm
which
from
is-
there.
Yeah, which is great. I mean, even our sales manager at like ALLSCO, you know, that we have, Charles, is from PEI. So they're all, you know, they all know each other. They all,
Yeah.
Went
you know,
to
they
school
went
or
to school. They played hockey. They played ball. They've done whatever. They're all very, very close. And it's been a tremendous market for us. Like we've had a lot of success, a lot of windows that we've made have went into Prince Edward Island.
And then Newfoundland is a place like have you touched any jobs at all in that region? It's just business wise, it's just tough.
We used to have very good presence in Newfoundland. We had multiple dealers that were there. Some of those dealers don't exist anymore for many reasons. But Newfoundland's it's a tough market to go in. It's either you're going in all in, or you can't go in just I'm gonna sell a couple jobs. You have to go all in because it is a very, very big province. It doesn't look like it, but it's a massive province. It's spread out everywhere. Windows you could be selling. You could be selling in Mount Pearl. You could send them in Mount Pearl, St. John's, and they're going to go all the way to Twillingate or very up north. And service-wise, it becomes how do you service them? Because there's going to happen where they have a broken piece of glass or something happened, or there's maybe an installation probably got to go check, and then how do you get people there? So it's very, very hard to try to get there. So really, if you're going, you have to kind of go all in. Either have local boots on the ground that know the area properly, central distribution where you can ship the product and then ship back out, because the shipping cost alone to go to Newfoundland is extremely, extremely high. Mm-hmm. It's cheaper. I can go to
Quebec,
Winnipeg cheaper than I can get to Newfoundland.
That's interesting. Yeah, you can get to Winnipeg cheaper than there with your products.
The issue becomes on the backhaul. So when you're shipping, if you're shipping,
that because you're not technically you're road transport instead of why, right? It's a longer distance.
It's not necessarily that problem, but it's because there's nothing coming off out of Newfoundland. So let's say you're contracting a local carrier that you're partnering up with. Say, I need you to do my Newfoundland runs, which we've done it before many times. They're charging you the trip there and the trip back, because they got nothing to come back. They're coming back either empty or
it's all you. They don't have 3 or 4 other clients on the same
no,
load,
exactly. And that's the problem.
20,
so it's and if you're going with, let's say you're using your own internal fleet, which we've analyzed 100 times, that driver's gone for a week. By the time he gets to North Sydney. You've considered that?
Oh yeah,
we've done it. I've done the math 100 times.
And you have your internal truck fleet anyway.
Oh yeah, we have our tractors, or we have our drivers.
But you've considered shipping.
Yeah, but the thing is the guy's gone for a week. He's literally gone for 5 days. Because by the time he gets there, he gets to the boat.
So who wants that job?
That's the problem. So I mean, some of our competitors have those guys that have it, and which is great for them. In the future,
some people like that.
Some people like exactly. You just got to find the right driver that wants to do it, and it's a routine thing. So it's like this guy's gone. He leaves on Sunday night. He's not back till Thursday, Friday, because he's got to, North Sydney's going to be a 1-day trip just there. Then you have the 10-hour boat ride. Then you have the whole. You're coming out in Port aux Basques. You got to do right to St. John. Like you have a massive trip to go through, and then you got to make your way back.
Because you're not driving through Newfoundland, you're driving around Newfoundland, right?
Yeah,
like there's no roads through. It's so it's quite a haul.
Yeah. So Remy, you've been at the company for 5 years, and you're saying it's been the best as far as work situation, or I think you did say that.
Best decision I ever made.
It's because he works with me.
You got to say that when you're sitting next to him, eh? But you talk to the wife tonight. No, I'm just gonna ask, like, what would you say the best parts of it? If you could articulate that, like, is the people, or is it the products? You have a passion for it? Is it just the contractors you do?
Like it's a multitude of things, right? Like it's just everything together, right? Like the people I work with are fantastic. We can pick on each other, we can bounce ideas off each other, and everything just works well. And then on top of that, the contractors, the customers, right? I'm a people person. I love talking to people. Yeah. So it was great to have that one-on-one conversation with these people, and answering their questions, because some people come in with essentially a blank page, right? They have no idea what they're looking for or what they want. So after talking, and you go through it, so it makes the job worthwhile when you can. Somebody tells you like, "Oh, thank you very much for your help." Like, very much so.
Yeah.
So
it sounds like too, like it's because of the operation isn't just the retail front. It's wholesale and retail and commercial, and then you have the whole manufacturing side in house and all the different products, and then some product lines that you carry with siding that you don't manufacture.
Yep.
But
right.
Sounds like you're constantly learning, right? There's no way you could know everything until you're dealing with each contractor, right? Like you got to know your stuff, but at the same time, like you're always going to be learning little, especially I think maybe more so with these products than some others. Right?
Oh, definitely. Like if there's something new that comes out, I want to know the most about it. I want to see how it's installed. I want to see.
That's fun. That's good to have in your work too. Like constantly learning.
for me, I always look to learn a minute, but you always look to learn something new every day, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
doesn't matter what it is, but try to learn something new every day. That's just,
Yeah, it's hard to keep that. I mean, it's hard to keep that mentality. Sometimes a lot of people have been working at something for, say 10 or 20 years, right? You are going to get a sense of, not necessarily that you know it all, but like, you have some experience, but it's hard keep an open mind at the same time that everything's always changing.
Exactly. Yeah. Cause eventually, the rules are going to change when the new building code comes out, right? So now we're going to have to figure out a new way to get like DER up or something like that, right?
So when's the next new building code coming out?
2025.
Okay, is it every 5
years?
It changed it was every 10 years though, right? At one point?
I think at one point, but it's every 5 years right now.
Okay.
So right now
And you're talking about the national building code or the provincial?
Well, there's only ever been a national building code. So the provinces will typically adopt
everything from the national,
and they'll make it their own building code,
Yeah.
and then they can add stuff to it, just like a municipality can add stuff to it.
like bylaws, right?
Exactly. So you can have, for example, that
But you're still subject to the authority of the province when you're using it, that right?
correct, and then you have whatever the city adds on to it. The city doesn't necessarily retract, but they will add.
But you're going to see different changes when it comes to your products and hardware and detailed products on your products and stuff. Like Moncton and Halifax, say, is there going to be differences there?
There's differences in regard to the code with what the building code requires for structural performance. Your weather here is much harsher with winds and everything and rain than it is in Moncton.
A lot closer to water in the peninsula. Same with PEI, be like
exactly.
Different
So
New Brunswick.
if we and everything is in the NAFS code, which is details for windows, everything goes by performance grade. So performance grade of 15, 20, 25 up to usually about 70, 80 is usually where she tops out. So you may have Halifax would have a PG of 35, 45 depending on where it is in Halifax, versus Moncton may only have a PG 25 requirement. Your product can be a PG 45 or PG 70, it's fine, but you have to hit that minimum load first.
Right.
So this area here is much harsher than most areas. You like outside St. John's, Newfoundland, and the Avalon Peninsula, Halifax, Dartmouth is probably the harshest climate in the maritime area.
Right. So that's another factor too for growth in this area. You're obviously carrying out lots of business, but
You're carrying, it's this salt air, right? Too.
Yeah.
Salt air will ruin like the mechanism. So it's like you got to move to stainless steel. So you got to think of different, like,
even your siding products too. Anything building envelope wise.
It's going to fade quicker, right? Like you're getting beat by salt air on top of it. Salt is the enemy when it comes to, anything mechanical.
Yeah. No, I think it's some interesting details on the specific market and the different areas, like within the East Coast. When we're talking about this with you guys,
And you're literally talking 2 hours away, right? Like
I know, right? Isn't that crazy? It's a 2-hour drive. A couple 100 kilometers, but it's that much different climate. Yeah. Insane. Anything else we didn't touch on? I mean, I'm sure we could go on here for a long time. Is there anything we didn't touch on that you really want to get out there?
There's one thing we'd like to say. I mean, that I'd like to say is that like every window purchase from ALLSCO or All Weather, there's a donation to IWK.
Okay.
Every year, right? So.
Okay, yeah. So it's a big partnership you guys have for philanthropy.
Yeah, we started last year with the IWK, so we partnered up that we have every window that we manufacture.
Pretty big here, in Halifax too.
Exactly.
Right?
So there's a portion that goes to IWK. So like there's a the presentation that's usually every June or July, whatever it is. We're there with that. So a lot of the manufacturers are part of IWK, but we've partnered up that at the window sale level, we're contributing to the IWK.
Nice. What about as far as we've had different guests on the show that have been. Whether it's an architect or a builder talking about net zero, talking about maybe R2000, different, classifications of homes. Like you guys talked already a lot about, obviously windows and doors and patio door systems and entrance systems are a big thing when it comes to those designations. Like, are you seeing much of that as far as those designations? Like say like a net zero, have you worked on some kind of unique, maybe net zero homes around or smaller?
We've worked on quite a few of them for net zero, and net it's a combination of your windows, your insulation, all
so
that.
Many different things.
Exactly,
right? It's
so
like baking a cake.
Exactly. So it's not just the windows or doors only, but we work with that very closely. There's a lot of windows that we have simulated. And again, like Remy said, all of our windows meet Energy Star from its lowest grade, or the basic entry meets Energy Star regardless for the window lines.
Okay.
So, and then you can upgrade, you're going up from there. So, a lot of when you're looking net zero, they're looking for that thing. You're looking really for something that's triple glazed, high efficiency, as far as you can push it, solar blocking glass, the best of the best to get to net zero. The same thing for the insulation. You're going to have to, increase insulation. You can't just use an R20 or R22 bat. You're going to have to look at spray foam. You're going to have to look at nib foaming. You're going to look at exterior foaming on the outside. So a rigid foam. All those things have to be looked at.
Anything else, guys?
ALLSCO's almost been around for 50 years. We're getting very close to the 50-year mark. We are a family-owned business. We've been around for quite a long time. We still plan to be along for a very much long time as well. Our products, stand a test of time, and we are continuing to innovate and offer new products and keep continuing changing things to getting things to the best they can be. And the team at ALLSCO, the team at All Weather, they're very, very close. Everyone works well together. It's a very, very close family. Even what you'll kind of realize too is over time is that, and Remy said it before, he's, best as he's made, because for some reason, once you enter the window industry, you tend to never leave the window industry. And I don't know why that is, but if you talk to the guys in the window industry themselves, most guys have been in the industry for 30, 40 years. There's a very long tenure on those employees.
Right.
Even on the shop floor.
Why do you think that is? Must have some insight or intuition into why that is.
It's because you're creating something. You're not just at a keyboard.
Right. It's like 0.0 to
like
all the way
you're
through.
literally building a product. Look at the guys that work in automotive. They're there most of their life.
Building a car, right?
Exactly.
You see the progress, right? From
That's
step
why
one
I
to
said
sales.
Model T earlier on, just because
right.
it does draw a cross reference
So
there.
we've got employees that are in the shop that have been in the shop for over 40 years of tenure. Not one. We have many over 40 years. A bulk of them in the 30-year mark, and they're there every day, and they continue to be there every day because they love what they do. And even for myself or Remy, it's once you're in an industry, it's a very small industry for windows and doors. Everyone knows everyone. All the competitors all know each other. We all know ourselves by name.
So you have pretty cordial relationships and kind of talk about the market and
we talk about the market. We help each other out.
Yeah.
We have competitors that call us, hey, I ran out of this. Can you lend me
Really?
a box? Yeah,
Okay,
no
so
problem,
it's
because we'll lend product from each other. Like we're very
Wow.
close. We're not there to
it's not like that in every industry,
No,
especially
it's
in
not.
construction. It's
No.
very much the opposite, actually.
It's not. But
Oh, you don't have any left. Oh, great.
That's too bad for you.
That's good.
yeah, but we help each other out because one day we're going to be in need and they're going to be in need, and
Yeah.
that is. But
Yeah.
it's a very, very close industry. Everyone knows each other, and you have a sense of pride. Like a lot of times you can drive down streets and you can say, oh, those were our windows or those were our doors. And I remember building that window. I remember installing that window. It was a very hard one to do or something like that. So
Yeah.
it's people that in our industry that I find, and Remy is a great example, are very, very passionate about what they do. They're passionate about windows, doors, and it's only someone can say, yeah, it's just a window or a door, but there's a passion behind it.
There's a lot more behind it than you think, right? Like, when you
somebody on the service was no really context for what it might be like. It's just like, but they wouldn't know the depth that goes into it and the specialized in people that have been working at it for years and years. And
yeah, that's right. Like,
the team it takes to get it done.
We were talking on the way up, and I was like, I still remember in the interview, they're like, do you know what window, like, what do you know about windows and doors? I was like, I know what they are, right? Like, it's just.
Well, it's not a lot of people think about it. You're using them every day.
Yeah,
right?
that's
Like
right.
you said, you're using your door every day.
I just
to your
know
house,
it, right? Like, I know what they are, but I
Yeah.
mean, ask me what part goes with what, like, you don't, right? But then I'm like, but I'll learn. And then I made sure that I, that's in, like you said, passion, because as soon as I hit the ground running, like, it was soak up as much as you can, right?
Right.
So,
Yeah, I've always felt that, just being around construction and interiors, and whether it's interior doors or exterior doors, and it's just one of them things where you kind of get to that phase and you really have to know what you're doing to do that. You have to have the hardware knowledge and have it installed right. Yeah, it's a lot of pride. It's got to be done right.
You
it has to be done right the first time. Yeah.
I feel like everybody at where we work, like, everyone takes pride in what their tasks are, right? Like, that's why you're saying, like, 20, like 30 years, 40 years, Like these guys take pride in what they do because otherwise they wouldn't be there, right?
Yeah.
And it's products that affect the consumer's home. It's not just,
The operation of the
stove
building
or a
the
kitchen
consumer's
sink.
home.
We're building windows and doors that affects the building envelope. I mean, it's got to be done right, because if it's not done right, then you have leaking problems, you have air infrastructure problems. It affects the homeowner. It affects their well-being. So it's
But you're also at the mercy of somebody who there's a lot of owners, like you say, like some people are aware, they're very aware, they want to have the right windows, doors, and that kind of thing. But a lot of people put a lot more attention into what's on their countertop, and aren't, you run into that as well, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's all
I mean,
it's all over.
Yeah, so that $15,000 goes into a certain solid surface countertop instead of higher end windows, right? So I don't even think about the windows sometimes. I don't care, which they should be, but
It's because everything that you use for part of your building envelope, whether it's your siding, your sheathing, your insulation, your roofing, your windows, your doors, that's the stuff you should be very concerned about, because it's what's holding your home together. And people don't understand that a properly built window, a high quality window, is very, very important. It's part of the structural integrity of the home. You have windows now that are basically replacing stud walls. You have stuff that is, we've built windows that are 22 feet wide by 18 and 22 feet high.
These are structural.
These are structural walls, but they're not with their windows, and it's holding your house up.
Well, it's curtain wall basically.
Almost.
Yeah.
But we've built them in vinyl, and we've done these vinyl windows that are just monstrosities. And you're looking at them going, wow, but it's part of the building envelope now. So it's you need to take pride in that, and it's
Absolutely.
you're keeping the customer's home intact by putting the right product in place.
You see some doozies on some house plans sometimes, and you're like, I'll try it.
Especially
I'll try to build
waterfront homes,
and then you're like, okay, well, it's not letting me, but let me find out, right? And then
but that's when it gets
call
fun,
Andre
right?
up and go, hey, I got this in the plan, so I'll take a
and your
snippet.
mouth's just water, and you're just gonna dig right into that, right?
So I take snippets of it, and I'm like, here, like, what do you think? Can we do this? Like,
I'm not, I'll put it out there. I am a Star Trek fan, so I am like Captain Kirk. I do not like no-win scenarios. So if you tell
That's
me
his nickname at the office, is it?
It is. But I don't believe in no-win scenarios. So if you tell me it cannot be done, I will figure out a way to do it. Somehow, some way, there is a way to figure it out, and I'll figure it out.
and it's fun. Like I love the challenge too, right? Like so it's like it's just fun to like be like, hey, look at this one. Like, what do you think?
For
right?
sure.
They're like, well, let's see, and then try to get the weight down, or try to get the proper reinforcements in it.
Even like maybe we can use a different stud layout here if it needs to be double king studs or quadruple or whatever. Like different headers system involved. Maybe even steel studs somewhere, something like that.
If you
right?
tell some people, you're like, okay, it can be built, but your engineer is gonna like the engineered trusses are gonna have to either
if you
be
want to
steel
pay
or it's like,
yeah.
I mean, that's your decision, but we can make it. So that's always fun.
Very interesting. No, it's been a pleasure chatting with both you guys, Andre and Remy, on behalf of ALLSCO Windows and Doors, and just learning all about just getting a deep dive into the company and the industry in the window and door regard, and just it's partly the fun for us too, is just having people on all the time that are so passionate what they do. It's uplifting. It just makes you want to keep talking, but obviously we have to stop at some point. So thank you so much for making the trip from New Brunswick and being with us. Really appreciate it, and look forward to.
Thank you very much for having us.
Yeah, thanks for the invitation.
Yeah,
Awesome.
It's good.
Cheers, guys.
We'd like to thank our longtime sponsor, Cook Insurance. Cook is your trusted insurance broker in Atlantic, Canada for 50 years. The Cook team opens up opportunities for contractors by proactively managing the requirements of their bond facility. They expand levels of support and negotiate preferred rate, all while prioritizing ease of doing business. A Navicord partner since 2020, Cook is one of the largest construction brokers in Canada and offers national strength with a local touch. Whatever your insurance needs are, Cook has you covered.
The team at Atlantic Construction Podcast have been able to build a strong relationship with the folks over at FCA Surety. FCA Surety is heavily engaged in supporting the Atlantic construction marketplace and helping contractors to build their businesses, and we can't recommend them enough. While FCA has their head office in Ontario, many of the members of their team have lived in Atlantic Canada and worked in the construction community here. This gives them a unique national perspective with a local flavor. Andrew Cartwright leads FCA's national surety operations as Vice President of Surety. Their knowledge of the bonding marketplace and understanding of how insurance companies view your business is unparalleled. In addition, The depth of their team and reach across Canada gives them the ability to draw on numerous experiences to help clients navigate items like subtrade, construction disputes, liens, and supplier risk management. These are the things that separate FCA Surety from the pack. Make sure to give the guys a call over at FCA Surety for all of your bonding and surety needs.